So let us talk about the long run average cost curve. We've been dealing with production functions earlier, and now we've shifted our attention to cost. What is cost? Cost is basically expenditure that is incurred on the production of a good or a commodity or a service. You produce something, the raw materials, the labor, the capital, everything that is required, the land, the fixed factors, the variable factors, all these things are included when we are thinking ourselves as producers. So that is all included in cost. So cost is the expenditure incurred on the production of a good. Now, what is average cost? Average cost is defined as the total cost per unit, the amount of quantity that is been taken into consideration. Now, that is TC upon, that is total cost upon Q, which gives us the average cost, and the total cost is given as fixed cost plus variable cost, wherein the fixed cost refers to the cost that is being used for the fixed factors, whereas the variable cost is referred to the cost that is used for variable factors. Now, before we move on to the long run average cost curve, let us discuss, or let us just have a look at how the short run average cost curve looks like. So it looks like the way as it is shown in this graph. First, the average of the cost decreases, and then it becomes minimum, and then again it starts increasing. It is basically the sum of the averages of the fixed cost curve and the variable cost curve. So those averages, when we add them, we will be getting a curve of this type. That is for the short run average cost curve. Now, when we are dealing with long run, we are just talking about variable factors. There is no fixed factors that is into consideration. So let us look at this graph. Here I have taken three short run average curves. The three being the three plants that I've for example, in suppose I'm going to produce something, and I'm setting up a plant. So I've set that plant in three different places, and then I'm looking at the output and also I want the cost to be minimum simultaneously, so that my work becomes easier. So these are the three short run average curves that I've drawn for three different plants in three different cities, because it is long run, so I have a lot of time. So obviously, since and now we are talking about the average cost per unit output, when the entrepreneur or the producer has time to vary all the factors of production, so that he has the most profitable size of plant and the best proportion of fixed and variable factors for any given output. Yeah, so here we can see that let us talk about point A. We are getting an output Q1 corresponding to the point A. Now, as we move on to our production in the same plant, we get to point B, where it is the minimum, where the cost is minimum and output is greater than A. But when we move on to the point C, we find that the output is same for both the plants 1 and 2 at point C and D respectively. As you can see, the point C is not clear enough. This one is point C. Yeah, so the point C and D have same output for different costs. So for the same output, now I have to look at which of the ones is beneficial to me. But now, as we reach on to point E, we find that the cost and the output is same for both the curves. Now, when I shift my production more forward, I see that if I had moved along the curve, first curve, it would have cost me more cost. So then I shift my attention to my second plant, and then I continue my production. I move on to the point F, which should be after E, and then again the equilibrium point, wherein the cost is same for the same output for both the plants second and third, and then again I shift my attention to plant third and continue my production. So these are the three different short run average curves for three different plants. And long run is what? Long run is basically the summation of all these. So the sum of all these is, so here in this graph, if we consider different short run average curves, average cost curves, so SAC1, SAC2, SAC3, and when we join all of them, it doesn't have to be the minimum point of each curve, obviously, because the cost actually varies every time we do the production. So it is not as always the minimum point. So we join all the points to find that the curve, the long run curve, looks something like this. Yeah. And this is a curve where we've also talked about marginal, short run marginal cost curve. So here, as you can see, SAC1, SAC2 and SAC3 are the curves. Wait, let me take a pencil. Yeah. So SAC1, SAC2 and then SAC3, these are the three curves, and then I've drawn this long run average cost curve. Now when the point of intersection of this SAC1 and the long run curve, when for the same output Q1, gives me the point at which the long run marginal cost curve is going to be the tangent of the short run marginal cost curve. So SMC1, when I draw it here, the point of intersection of the short run long run marginal curve and the short run marginal curve would be exactly this point. So for the different plants, this is what I've got, and then I've joined all them to find the long run marginal cost curve. Thank you.